Stop scrolling. This could literally put money back in your pocket. Over 40,000 Australians are about to get refunds from Centrelink after overpaying debts they didn't even know they'd cleared. That's right. People who did everything by the book and paid off what they owed are now finding out the government actually owes them money. Some refunds are just a few dollars, but others are worth thousands. If you've ever had a Centrelink debt, even years ago, this update could change your balance and maybe your week. I'm going to break down exactly what happened, who's eligible, and how to check if you've got cash waiting to come back your way. But before we dive in, do me a quick favor. Hit subscribe and tap that notification bell. I share clear, real-world updates on money, government payments, and financial changes that actually affect your life. And trust me, this is one story you don't want to miss. Now, let's start with the situation itself. According to recent reports from outlets such as news.com.au and The Guardian, around 44,000 Australians have been identified by Services Australia as potentially having overpaid their Centrelink debts. This includes people who may have continued making repayments even after their debt balance reached zero, as well as people whose debt amounts were reduced but who were never refunded the difference. These overpayments have come to light following a detailed internal review by Services Australia, which found that in some cases the refund process either didn't trigger properly or wasn't completed as it should have been. For most people, the amounts owed are relatively small, with roughly half of all cases involving less than $50. But the numbers vary widely, and some individuals are looking at refunds worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. A small portion of cases, around 2%, could see refunds exceeding $5,000. So, how did this happen? The reasons are a mix of system issues, process gaps, and simple human error. One of the main causes is automatic payment arrangements that continued even after debts were cleared. For example, many Australians who owed Centrelink debts set up recurring BPAY or direct debit payments to make regular repayments. Once their debt was paid off or adjusted, some of these payments continued to go through, effectively sending extra money to a zero balance. In theory, Services Australia's system should have automatically detected that overpayment and processed a refund. But in thousands of cases, that didn't happen. In other cases, people's debts were reassessed after tax returns were lodged or after new information came to light, reducing the original debt amount. However, if payments had already been made based on the higher original figure, the excess sometimes wasn't reimbursed. It's also worth noting that the system used to manage debt and repayments is extremely complex, and when automatic processes don't trigger correctly or records are out of sync, small overpayments can easily go unnoticed. Services Australia has publicly acknowledged that this issue affects a wide range of customers and has committed to contacting those who are owed refunds. A spokesperson explained that the agency is reviewing each of the affected cases to determine how much is owed and to ensure refunds are processed securely. They've also made it clear that people do not need to apply for refunds manually. The agency will reach out directly to those impacted. Contact will be made either by phone, letter, or official communication through MyGov. However, they've also encouraged people to review their own repayment history if they believe they might be affected. If you've ever had a Centrelink debt, whether it was related to income reporting, family tax benefit adjustments, or other overpayments, this is something you should pay attention to, especially if you made repayments through BPAY or had an automatic transfer set up from your bank account. There's a real possibility that you may have paid more than you actually needed to. The same goes for anyone who has received debt reassessments in recent years. Sometimes, when your debt amount changes, the updated balance doesn't get reflected in your repayment schedule immediately, leading to an unintentional overpayment. It's important to note that this situation is completely separate from the earlier robo-debt scandal, which involved unlawfully raised debts. This new refund process is not about debts that should never have existed. It's about people who did owe something but paid too much when the process failed to refund the excess. Now, let's talk about what you can do if you think you might be one of the affected Australians. The first thing is to check your online account through MyGov or the Centrelink portal. There, you can review your debt history and payment records. If your balance is shown as zero, but you can see payments that were made after that date, or if you believe your debt was reassessed but you weren't refunded the difference, make note of it. Next, keep an eye out for official communication from Services Australia. They've said they'll start contacting affected people from late October 2025. If you receive a legitimate call, letter, or message from Services Australia confirming you are owed a refund, follow their instructions carefully. Do not share your personal information with anyone claiming to be from the agency unless you can confirm it's genuine. There are already reports of scammers trying to exploit situations like this by pretending to offer refunds. If you're ever in doubt, contact Services Australia directly through their official phone number or website. If you're unsure about your situation but think there's a chance you overpaid, it's perfectly fine to reach out to Services Australia proactively. Their customer service teams can verify your debt status and check whether a refund is owed. When you contact them, it helps to have your payment records handy, especially if you made payments through your bank. They'll usually be able to confirm if your account is among those being reviewed. If you have automatic BPAY or direct debit arrangements that are still active, now is also a good time to double check that they've been cancelled once your debt is cleared. It might sound like common sense, but sometimes those small recurring payments continue for months simply because people forget to stop them once they receive notice that their debt has been paid in full. There's also a broader significance to all of this. For one, it highlights the importance of accuracy and transparency in government systems that manage welfare and social support. When people make repayments, they do so in good faith, often under financial stress, and they have every right to expect that the system will be fair and precise. Overpayments, even small ones, can represent meaningful sums to individuals and families who are already budgeting tightly. And beyond the immediate financial impact, this story underscores the importance of clear communication between agencies and recipients. People should always be able to easily see what they owe, how much they've paid, and when their debts are settled. Financial counselors and advocacy groups have welcomed Services Australia's move to investigate and refund these overpayments, but have also urged for greater transparency moving forward. They've suggested that more accessible debt statements and real-time repayment tracking could help prevent similar situations in the future. Some groups have also emphasized that it's essential for the government to maintain public confidence in its debt management systems, especially after the controversies surrounding earlier welfare debt collection practices. While this current issue doesn't involve unlawful debts, it still affects trust. And rebuilding that trust means being proactive, transparent, and responsive to the people impacted. So, what's the likely outcome here? For most people, the refunds will be modest, perhaps a few dollars to a few hundred. But for a small number of individuals, particularly those whose automatic payments continued for extended periods, the refund could be worth thousands. The total amount across all cases hasn't been publicly confirmed yet, but given the scale of 44,000 accounts being reviewed, it could represent millions of dollars in aggregate. Services Australia has said it's committed to ensuring every affected customer is repaid and that no one will have to chase their refund manually. Still, as we all know, government systems can take time, so patience and persistence may be necessary. Before we wrap up, it's worth sharing a few practical reminders. Always verify any message claiming to be from Services Australia before clicking links or sharing information. Scammers often use real headlines like this to trick people into giving away banking details. If you get a suspicious email or text, delete it and report it. Only respond through official government channels. And if you're struggling with debt or financial stress more broadly, consider speaking to a registered financial counselor. They provide free, confidential advice and can help you understand your rights and options. At the end of the day, this situation serves as an important reminder of why it's so valuable to stay informed and engaged with your financial records, even when dealing with large institutions like Services Australia. Mistakes can happen, systems can fail, and sometimes it takes public attention for these issues to come to light. But the positive takeaway is that the government is acknowledging the problem and working to fix it. If you've ever repaid a Centrelink debt, it's worth spending a few minutes today checking your records, because that effort could lead to a refund you didn't know was waiting for you. Thank you for watching and for staying informed about stories that matter to everyday Australians. If you found this video helpful, please take a second to like it and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss updates on issues like this. We'll continue to bring you clear, factual explanations of what's happening and how it affects you. And if you have questions about your own situation, drop them in the comments below. Just remember that while I can't provide personal financial advice, I can point you toward reliable information and official resources. Take care of yourselves, stay smart with your finances, and I'll see you in the next video.